Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.
So the next photo, over to you.
Okay. Yeah, no, for sure. Look, it's another, it's like a screenshot. And it's samspiro.com, no less.
Yeah.
I guess, so there's your handle, which is Sam Zen, the love activator. And then the quote is, when you start to realize that no one can give you true love and no one can take it from you either, you start to get emotionally free. True love is who you are. It's not a prize for being picked. Okay. I love that the word love and that the idea of love and all of that is so present in your world. So don't let me put words in your mouth or whatever, but how wide is the last image that we're using this quote?
Because you're right, I love love. All of these things that I've discovered through my own journey, through relationships and loneliness and heartbreak and family tragedy and the whole shebang, the word I love the most is love. And I think love is a superpower. And I would test it out on myself, because I was doing all of these, manifestation techniques for the last 30 years, and some would work and some wouldn't. And then I started to play around with the word love. And just by saying it, with people, just say the word love. It's without doubt one of the highest frequency words you can possibly say. But you say it through the body, I love. And as I went through the awakening process, and I sat with different teachers in India, and that in itself is a story. And, we went through certain questionings and self-inquiry prompts, I should say. And when you go into the who am I, actually what I should have had on that picture is who am I? Because it all starts with asking that question, who am I? And you ask it to yourself, who am I? And if you snap and you ask who am I and you snap, eventually you will feel a slight opening in the chest. Who am I?
Mm-hmm.
That opening in the chest, I think you just felt it, right? I just felt that you felt something.
Okay.
So in that tiny space is the portal. That is in-lightenment. Now, if you put your awareness in it and you start swimming around, you ask yourself, did anyone give me this love? You can feel there's no one who gave it to you. You can also feel it was there before you were born. Was it there before? Did someone give it to me? No. Was it there before I was born? Yes. I'm doing this now. This is not through memory. Can it be taken away from me? No. And can anyone give it to me? No. So if no one can take it from me and no one can give it to me, then I don't actually need anyone else to feel this. But this is the crazy thing. We all think we need other people to give us love. And we think that the love we feel is dependent on them. And the love that they give us is dependent on them as well. But actually, love is ours. So the love I have for my partner is my love. Sure, he may trigger my love. But the love is mine. No one can give it to me. No one can take it from me. So whether he stays or goes, I can still feel that love. I can still choose to project that love towards him or not, no matter what him or anybody else does. So when I started to really realize that love is me, love is mine, and go through this really quick process, who am I? Who am I? It's a question that makes me, if you're looking into a mirror, imagine you're looking into a mirror, but you swivel the mirror and you make it look back into you. If you see what I mean. So rather than me looking at you right now, imagine that there's a mirror here and it's bouncing back and you're bouncing back inside. Then suddenly you're floating in this beautiful, vast space. And, in the moments where we really want love, if you go in there and sit, as I said, in that chair in the middle of the chaos, and just be with the chaos and pull down, like imagine you're pulling down a screen in your mind. So it's like black. To me, it's black and starry. So you're not going into the story of who left you or who didn't want you or who didn't pick you or who robbed you or who betrays you, because that's where the bullshit is. So you're saying no to the bullshit, but you're going to sit with the raw emotion. So there's no spiritual bypassing here. It's complete spiritual acceptance, if you like, of the raw emotion you may be experiencing, while recognizing that you are way vaster. The true you is way vaster than this emotion that's going through you. However, it's energy, and you have to give it presence if you want to evolve. Right? So this thing about the true love for me is that, I guess, one of the most important moments of my whole evolution, if you like, has been the recognition that no one can give it to me and no one can take it from me. Therefore, I don't need anybody else to feel. Sure, people are great, relationships are great. You could say, so why did you go and, if it was so good, why did you go get married? Why are you in a relationship? Well, because I can, because it's fun, because our partners are our greatest teachers, because, I'm determined to be free emotionally.
Yeah.
Or mentally of the bullshit.
Okay. Well, like for example, why did you when I hear questions like that, like why did you choose to do this or that? It's like, well, why chocolate? Why vanilla? Just because. Like it just is.
Yeah.
And ultimately, how do we get to that understanding? Somebody like Michael Sapolsky would say, well, there is no free will to understand, so it's just there, and you can always try to go backwards to find out, well, what was before that or what caused that. Okay, so for the listener who's listening, I mean, we've gone into some pretty abstract, vague, theoretical, the sort of the uncharitable listener might say hippy dippy territory. But so, for example, one of the values that you clearly have is around love. And you're absolutely right that true love is who you are. Like you can choose to become a loving being, and it just keeps giving and keeps flowing and it never ends. My association to that is fun, as much as it is love, actually. Okay, so let's bring it back down to solid ground, right? So in your practice, helping people, usually people, when they turn to you, it's because there's a problem. It's because there's a crisis. It's because they're in pain. There's trauma. So how do you bring people back down to earth from their trauma and their pain? I've really appreciated what you said in terms of, it's almost like CBT, in terms of like visualization of how to get back into yourself to kind of get the chaos to kind of turn down the volume on that. Okay, so for somebody who doesn't have love in their life and they're looking for it, like it's like some secretive mouse in a house that you just think, I'm going to find that love one of these days, but it's actually inside you the whole time. So how does that come alive in your practice?
Okay, so what I do is, and I'd say it's not so much for people who just have trauma, it's for people who have trauma and who have tried everything else and it doesn't work, because that's what happened to me. I tried therapy, I've tried everything, and it only really worked. I only shifted when I started to self-inquire in the right way, and as in with the CBT, started to implement those steps. Okay, so you've got the inner change with the self-inquiry, with the steps of change in CBT. So making a list from 1 to 10, with 1 being the easiest thing that you could possibly do and 10 being impossible, but you're going to do it anyway. So doing this list and making myself take action, because I've done plenty of hypnotherapy where, or therapy where we just spoke and blah, but no one ever made me take it. No one ever said to me, so what action are you going to take? And without action, nothing changes. Truly, nothing changes. And I'm sure, this will spark a debate regardless. Anyway, this has been my experience. And then going into that self-inquiry. So learning, but not just learning. This is not learning. This is experiencing in the now. This is going into asking that question, who am I? Because I asked it 2 years before I then re-asked it. And learning that I am or learning on a visceral level, learning inherently, so learning is the wrong word, recognizing inherently that there is way more to me than this body. Okay, so this is, it's a solo practice, if you like. So I would take people into the who, straight away, the who am I? Who am I? And as soon as I feel that they felt that opening in the chest, you then go into, as we were saying, but you find that awareness expands really fast. And when your awareness expands really fast and you're out here as opposed to closed in, I mean, there's many different ways you can stretch your awareness, you stretch your eyes, all sorts of things, that you're seeing yourself there on the bed or on the chair, and you'll see yourself experiencing certain things, but you recognize that that is not you. It's not the true you. It's a version of you who's going through the drama. It's a version of you who's suffering. And then I get them to recognize, can you see that the part of you that's suffering is not the you who's observing you suffering? There, and it happened there, just there. Then it becomes a distance, and suddenly the power of the drama, of the bullshit, lessens. And the more that you are able to recognize that I can be sitting there, even I can be sitting here crying and shouting and screaming, or not quite that anymore, but having a moment and having a wobble and thinking, what's going to happen in my life, and where am I going, and what am I doing, and why have they done this, blah, 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 you know, bullshit. And suddenly, okay, stretch my awareness. I'm up there, I'm on the ceiling, I'm on the walls, I'm on the floor, I'm everywhere. Okay, can I recognize, can I see that the part of me that's suffering is not the part of me that recognizes I'm suffering? And then there's a distance. And within that distance, suddenly there's peace. And on a practical level, okay, let's say on a practical level, say, for example, I have what I call human moment and I feel insecure about something, rather than asking my partner to validate me or verify or approve, I just sit there in the discomfort of the need of wanting something, and it shifts.
Okay.
And the more you do that, the more you build. So self-confidence is not confidence in your mind, it's confidence in the self. It's confidence in the truth of who you really are. So how would I do it? So for every situation in life, so if it's the lack of money or job, so I use different principles, you know, I'll kind of go into, because I know I'm an inherent being, I know that I can, and it is, I mean, you can say it's woo-woo, but it's woo-woo until you prove it to yourself, and then it's suddenly not woo-woo. And the only way you can prove it to yourself is to do it. And the only way you can do it is to kind of say, I'm going to take the risk of trying something new to see whether I can create what I want. And I find that a lot of people, they have a fear that if they believe they can have it and then they don't get it, that's even worse than not even believing they can have it.
Right.
So you got to challenge that, and you got to say, you know, what I call zero headspace. There's zero headspace for failure, as in, so say, for example, you know, when you when you do your driving test and you're like, I'm going to pass that driving test. You don't sit there and study and do your highway code and get in the car and go around the roundabouts thinking, I'm going to fail. You're like, no, I'm going to pass. Sure, you may have a wobble, but you're going to pass. I'm going to pass. So anytime, you know, am I going to get a job? Am I going to do this? Am I going to get love? Right. Wobble comes up. Okay. Let it vent for a minute. And then, no, everything's working out for me. I cannot tell you the amount of times I say to myself on loop, everything's working out for me. It always has and always will. I write it. I say it to the point that then if I wobble, it goes into, within 2 days or 3 days, I can give myself a new story. And if I write it a few times a day and I repeat it and I read it, suddenly within 3 days, that's the new story, which makes you think,
Right.
Was the old story real? Who put the old story there? If this new story feels as real as the old story, then who put it there? But the answer to the question is, in order to know whether it's woo-woo or whether to know, you got to try it. And it doesn't really matter what label you put on it until you try it. If it works for you, then suddenly it's practical. Does that make sense? I'm sure people might not agree, but hey.
Screw them.
I see it work. I've seen it. I know it works.
Yeah. Okay. So, samspiro.com is where people can find you online. Your book is available.
It's on the bestseller list now.
Boom. Congratulations.
Yay.
It's wicked. Okay. Well, look, like these hours go by so quickly. It's already been an hour, right?
Amazing.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, amazing. You're amazing. Okay. Well, any last thoughts you'd like to leave the listener? I'm gonna just give you the mic. Like, where they, as far as the book, they can get the book, follow you on the various social media. I don't know if you use different social media, but definitely you have a website, samspiro.com.
Yes. And I'm Samantha Spiro on Facebook. What I've really come to realize is we are not who we think we are. We are way vaster and way more inspired and way more resourceful than we give ourselves benefit for. And I think the most important question that I ask myself and others is, can you afford to spend one more minute living as the version of you who doesn't believe it's possible? Or is life too short to buy into the bullshit when you can actually, nothing's fixed in stone. You can challenge it. So why not do it now? And that's one question. And the second question would be, if on some level through the circumstances of your own life, you've trained, or we all train ourselves to see life a certain way, and that's based on the bullshit, then it should occur to us that we can also train our minds to actually see it differently. So why wouldn't we? Why do we accept the bullshit limitations we impose upon ourselves when we don't have to? We don't have to. And you can literally sit in front of a mirror, ask, who am I? Go inside and just feel the stillness and feel the silence and feel that little space inside you and know that that is enlightenment. And the only task is to recognize that more and more and more and experience that more and more and more. And it really does come from that one question. And that in itself will create the change in life. Because, is life basically a business that we have to manage, or is it living the great mystery? Which one is it? Which one do you want it to be? And that's it.
That's beautiful. Sam, thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely perfect.
Oh, thank you, Ran.
So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So, if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.